First cut with the Skrama. Greetings my friends and welcome back to the Home Slice. I've been debating what to do having wrapped up the mini tournaments that I had planned for chopping blades. And over time, kind of a fun plan has come together in my mind. Welcome to the newest chopping tournament, a tournament of sorts. I suppose it's more of a gauntlet. I have gone out and bought a Terava Skrama. I've always wanted one of these. I've always been interested in ADCR V2 steel, and I think these guys are just a really great budget workhorse package. And most of the blades that I use in the chop tournament are like loaners, like people loan them to me, particularly my viewer Andrew. Thanks for that, bro. So I've always wanted a Skrama from Varusteleka. I'm sure most of you will be familiar, but the Skrama is the sort of all-purpose chopper made by the business and website varusteleka.com. It's got a comfy forward grip and a portion of edge over here that's profiled to a narrower angle for kind of feather sticking and detail work. And it's got a big chunk of edge out here that has a slightly wider, more obtuse angle, and a portion of handle here that you can come back to get a whole lot of swing so that you can use it for a chopping task as well. I've always wanted one of these, and I've always kind of dreamed of having one, and I've always thought ADCR V2 is like a really practical, cool, budget carbon steel. So I've purchased this, and welcome to the Skrama Versus Everything series. In this series, I'm going to take this guy, this Terava Skrama, and it is going to face off against the winners of every single tournament and mini tournament that I have done. I thought in the wake of finishing the last mini chop tournaments, which were a bit rushed and a bit more hectic, I would slow down and take some time. I've found that I like how crisp a diamond edge is. It seems like with chopping, if you go to really fine diamond, you often get a fairly robust edge. So I'm going to test that theory in this series. I'm going to take all the edges to very fine diamond and see how close to that mark of around 100 best I can get, with just a little bit of micro convexing from a hanging strop at about 17 degrees per side. So all of the edges will be sharpened in roughly that way. If you're interested for the sharpening specifics, I've recorded them and I will put them at the end of the video. In this first episode, the Terava Skrama, I don't know how to pronounce that correctly, is going to be facing off against the winner of the edge retention chopping tournament. The edge retention chopping tournament started out in a tier with 8 different episodes, and it went through 15 different episodes. A total of 16 blades were tested, varying from like a Kmart cleaver that I bought for $6 all the way up to like a Survive Knives GSO. We had the buck hoodlum break. We had all kinds of crazy things happen. The edge on the 1810 stainless cleaver bent right out of shape. But in the end, the knife that actually had the best edge retention from start to finish was the KaBar Becker BK7. My KaBar Becker BK7. So this BK7 has been taken back to 17 degrees per side. Both edges are finished on diamond. I'll put up a recording of the best figures for these two edges. But at the end of the sharpening, this Skrama was registering numbers from 95 grams to 104 grams on the best machine. And the BK7 was registering anywhere from 99 grams to about 119 grams. That's the lowest that I could get these on diamond abrasives while being careful and finishing up with some hanging strop strokes to just give a little bit of convexity to make sure that that edge is really good for push cutting, but a little bit more robust at that angle while being as thin as possible on the overall edge angle. Anyway, let's get chopping. I'm going to face these two off against one another. 1095 CroVan versus ADCR V2. Very similar steels, probably at a relatively similar hardness, I would think. The 80CR-V2 just has a little bit less carbon, and so should have slightly higher toughness, I would anticipate. But time will tell how those edges hold up. So we'll have the Skrama face off against every single blade that has won a tournament so far. I'll give you some sharpening information more in this series. I'll take time to try to keep those best numbers as low as possible. And I'm going to create a roster again and try to get back to a bit more of a structured format for these videos. So here's a roster as of now. We'll bring it back up with finishing best readings. And when I go through all 6 face-offs of this tournament sequentially, we'll make a call about which blade deserves to be the winner, and if in fact the Skrama has what it takes to best all of the all-star team. Time will tell. Let's do it. Well, guys, before we get started, I gotta apologize because I am always doing these tests, and I often use the best machine because that's kind of how I'm quantifying and tracking things, but I forget to do sharpness tests that are more relatable to normal people. So as far as shaving, I don't know if you can see those hairs flying off, but these guys they're shaving real good. Skrama, perhaps even less effort. Don't know if you guys can see that in the light. The hairs are just flying off. Okay, so shaving. Let's see. I don't know, what do you call this? The accordion paper? I don't normally do this. Just messing around here. So, quite good on the Becker. Make sure that's in the video. Skrama's perhaps even better. Now my desk is covered with hair. My accounts team will be thrilled about that. Let's see. Cursive cuts. I did bind up there. I'm actually not that good at doing cursive cuts because I don't usually test this way. Yeah. I think it's good at this. I think I'm just not very good at this. But I don't know if you got feedback for me. Let me know. You see it's continuing the cut through that sharp 90-degree angled bit. That's good. Cursive cuts on the Skrama. Let's see. These are also oiled, so that's not bad. It feels slightly better than the Becker, but oh yeah, that's really good. I think it's just a hair sharper than the Becker is. There you go. Normal person sharpness test. They're slightly convexed. I wouldn't think they would slice like toilet paper super cleanly, or they probably would do okay on paper towel. Anyway, there you go. There's some practical sharpness demonstrations here starting out. Initiating a cut on the flat. Let's see how that is. Third attempt. Decent. Initiating a cut on the flat. It's hard to hold these teeny little pieces of paper. Yeah, pretty similar. Cut a little extra there. First cut with the Skrama. I'm gonna like this. Oh yeah. so good. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna like this. This thing's a beast. Well, I'm an hour in on chopping with the Skrama. Got a little fantail. Keeps coming to visit me. Real cool bird here in New Zealand. They kind of flit around when you walk by because the bugs kind of fly up and they'll catch the bugs behind you. Very friendly. I'll see if I can catch it on camera. It was just here, but it took off. But hey, really rewarding morning already so far. I've cleared this whole area and got this nice non-invasive tree, nice and open, clearing out all these woolly nightshades, which are an invasive species here in New Zealand that take over and crowd out everything, and uncovered this guy. This is a silver fern. Top of it's this real neat dark green, and the underneath side has silver lining. It's kind of considered a symbol of New Zealand. Oh, here's the fantail. I'll see if I can get a shot of him. And this was all a forest of these invasive plants, but I've cleared it now. Hey, little guy. Hey, hi. Wow. Hey, how you doing? What a cool little guy. But I've cleared this little portal here so that you can really see a nice view to this gorgeous waterfall. So I'm gonna switch to BK7 now. I think I'm gonna tackle these things that are obscuring the view, these nightshade over there. And then I'll probably work on this forest up here, which is kind of obstructing the pathway to get down. Oh, the fantails are so cool. All right, on to the BK7. Already see him fanning his tail. Oh, it's okay. It's all right. It's okay. They flick their tail feathers out, and the inside ones are white, but the top and outside ones are black. So they go from appearing like a really darkly colored bird to this flash of light, kind of like one of those Chinese fans. Very cool. Anyway, sorry. Actually, while I'm doing a mid-video interlude here, I'll just give my thoughts while they're fresh on the Skrama. I bought the variant. It's from Varusteleka.com for those of you who are not familiar. I bought the variant that comes with a leather sheath, and I bought a small 80mm Skrama to go with it. which has a companion sheath here in the leather sheath. This is an incredible chopper. Incredible. It doesn't eject chips quite as well as like an axe because the grinds are more of a flat grind, but the edge is very thin and the cutting ability is insane. If I have the choice between something that's thick enough to eject chips or it's thin enough to slice, I'd prefer something that's thin eject to slice because as you sharpen it, the behind the edge thickness will increase and it will get better at ejecting chips. But if you get something that's too thick and it's really good at ejecting chips, but the chop penetration is not super high, it's never coming back. Like, that's not something that recovers. You know, you don't get thinner as you sharpen. I really love the double grip. I find myself, while I'm walking around, I'll just kind of let it fall into this, and then you've got really good safety and control. You can set it down on the ground as you're kind of clambering about, and very, very safe and very precise. And then you get out to use it, and it's just a little kind of flick of the wrist to get it out, and then you're ready to go. Really love the double utility of the handle. One thing I don't love about over-molded rubber handles is like this. I've already hit a little bit shy of the blade, and it just caused a crack there, which I think over time this part will begin to crack as I don't have perfect aim 100% of the time. But this is going to be hard to beat. This thing is phenomenal. It'll be so fun actually to face this off against all the tournament winners. I think I should note that the KaBar Becker, it was the champion of the edge retention, the best edge retention chopping tournament. And so this thing, obviously the Becker is competing out of its chopping league because this thing is longer, larger, heavier, and swings with a lot more velocity. But what I'll be looking at is partially the utility of it, but partially also the edge retention. I think if this thing comes close at this length with this high velocity of a swing to the edge retention that we get on the KaBar Becker BK7, then I will consider that if it's got greater utility and close to the same edge retention, the Skrama's the winner. If the KaBar's, edge retention is markedly better, like more than 10% better, more than 10% best better, then I think we might have to say, hey, like, the Becker really performed exactly as it was intended. All right, let's get on to it.
Soaked in potent wine, finally free. winsome whistling wind. Let me listen in. I chased you through these trees and tasted your tender breeze. You're on the tip of my tongue, but we've only begun. Tracked your trail to these winsome woods, where I finally found and understood. Oh, you've been filling my lungs. Oh, you've been hunting me down. Thought you were the wild one, but my taming begun. You wake me in the morning, safety is becoming mine. Love is never fleeing, the same in every season.
Okay, give me a moment just to average those up, and I know the Skrama has won, but we'll see by how. Alright, the BK7 on the paper slice at this point. I haven't done this yet, but it's doing really well. Except there's a couple chipped areas, especially out towards the tip or in the middle of the chop zone. Right there, there's one, right there, right there. Terava Skrama. Much, much better. Surprisingly better. I'm very surprised, guys. I mean, I'm cursiving there. Do you see that? There's a little spot where they changed this from like a 17 degrees per side to 20 or whatever the two angles are. I can't remember. That has a little bit of damage on it. But overall, incredible edge retention from the Skrama. Very good edge retention on the BK7. No complaints about that whatsoever. Okay, let's talk results. So if I was to give them a rating from 1 to 10 on the paper slice, I would give the Skrama a probably like a 6 or 7, maybe 6.5, we'll say. I'd give the BK7 like a 4.5 to 5. We'll say 4.5 because there are some chips that are hard to get around. Less than 5 if there's chips you can't get around. Obviously, neither of them I don't think are push cutting, no. And no, not even close. Not push cutting. A little bit of cursive out of the Skrama if you're real delicate with it. The best readings are an incredibly different story. Now, the KaBar Becker, I have done tons of work with this, but I have to admit the things that we were chopping in this test were really thick. They were much bigger. And so I actually ended up having to spend more time on each log, and you have to give a lot of power when the surface of what you're chopping spreads out to the middle of the tree to get any penetration. And so a much higher impact application in these tests of a small knife than what I've done in the past. And what I found is that this edge, which held an extraordinary edge in my past testing on smaller stuff without chipping. Did develop a chip out here, and I caught it with the best, and it came back registering 786 grams, which is one of the main things that is going to cause the Skrama to actually prevail over the BK7 in an edge retention test, which I did not expect. I was so surprised when these numbers came out. But it's really cool. They've done a really excellent application of this 80 CRV2 steel and a really good balance to this knife. The best number that the edges recovered to was respectively 232 grams in the portion of the BK7 edge that's still shaving a little bit. And I gave this, on a scale of 1 to 10, I gave this a 2 for shaving because it will just a little bit in this section. I gave the Skrama a 1 because it will pop a couple of hairs, but it's not clean shaving any surfaces of my arm on any portion of the edge. Just a little bit of popping random hairs on this area that has a bit of a more acute area behind the edge bevel. Before stropping with the BK7, we were looking at a reading of 432 grams right in the center of the chop zone. So it has been dulled by this hour of chopping on really, really big trees. That's no surprise. It's a job that's a little bit outside, or a lot outside, of the scope of the design purpose of this knife. If you wanted to chop the kind of stuff we're chopping today, you'd be much better suited with a BK9, but I don't have any presently, and it didn't win the edge retention test. So there we are. The Skrama with the best portion of edge after the strop on the Skrama was hitting a 249, so it didn't get quite as keen as the area down here on the BK7, just a little bit worse. But before the strop, it was registering a 309, which is much, much better than 432. Some conclusions that I would draw is it's sort of counterintuitive. You think a thicker edge on a knife that swings with less velocity is going to dull more slowly. And I think that that's true chop for chop. But when you consider if you have to do some big work, like really, really thick logs, then if you have a blade that gets through the logs with less chops, then you're going to spend more time walking around, resetting, getting to your next cut, and getting set up, and therefore less time chopping overall because you're not having to put as much work in. At first I was like, oh, that skews the results, but upon reflection, I'm like, actually no, that's accurate to real life. If you're out camping and you have to spend 3 times as many chops to get a piece of wood into 2 pieces, then it will dull faster because you still need that piece of wood split. You still need the same amount of work done overall. And the Skrama did the same amount of work as the BK7 while averaging out pre and post strop all together at 287.3 grams. It's an incredibly good reading for this testing. And I have to say, I tried to hit the portion of the edge that was like looking the worst in the light. When I was bending away, I was looking for scattered light along the edge to see if there's any flat portions. Found the area I thought was worst, tried to test it, and it hit a 302. And since that was better than the pre-strop number right in the middle of the impact zone, I was like, I better double test that. So I looked again, found another area that looked like the second worst area, and made a pencil mark and tested that area, and it was at 306. So overall, on the whole, this entire edge has stropped back to where the worst portion, the very worst portion of edge, is better than it was before stropping. So very, very good strop back performance, very low numbers overall for the Skrama, and a very efficient design, which is leading to us not dulling as much, and a very, very good application of this 80 CRV2 steel. This presently, at this moment, is starting to become my favorite outdoors steel because of this test and the way that this thing handled in the field. What should we say about the Becker? Well, I think that you have to admit that you need to keep this thing to its intended scope of use and purpose. It's made to be an all-purpose utility, light packing weight. In fact, let's weigh these real quick. So, sorry, I just took some readings and they were off because this pedestal messes with things. It's got to balance on the actual metal. Just Got 383 grams of pack weight for the Becker. 529 grams of pack weight for the Skrama. So there you go. You got to keep to your intended purposes. Does this test make me no longer love the KaBar Becker BK7? Oh, no way. By no means. Am I going to sell this knife now because it lost in this edge retention test? No way. I have beat the living tar out of this knife. It is wonderful and beautiful. It is all-purpose. It's lightweight. It's so good. It's just another interesting example of how your use and your steel and your sharpening all come together to form your performance. And I have to say, for this test, the Skrama is the winner. Like, free and clear by all accounts, I have to declare the Skrama is the winner, which is really cool. Anyway, if you want to see the last chopping tournament that I did, the conclusion of it, I'll put the link on screen right now. For all the rest of you, I'll say peace out for the home slice. Make sure to tune in next time where this thing takes on my Condor Scout hatchet, which had the best penetration, and we'll compare penetration to penetration. Peace out from the home slice. Take care, guys. Bye. All right, so here's the bracket. We're going to have 4 more blades face off against the Skrama. Here at the beginning, we have the surprising reality that it has beaten our edge retention champion. Next week, tune in for it to take on our chop penetration champion.